Hi guys, how you doing? Only 2 more weeks left, this week and next week. I hope you've had a good week. Looks like we're going to be opening up more next week, but we'll see. We're carried on with our Bibles, Action Bibles. We're on to page 216. And for last week, Deborah, the prophetess and the judge, told them how to beat the Canaanites, and they did. And then 40 years later, they'd forgotten again. And that's where we find ourselves. They've forgotten. So the cowardly judge, based on Judges 6 and 7. In the years of plenty that followed Deborah's victory over the Canaanites, the Israelites again forgot God. One by one, they joined their neighbours in worshipping the idol Baal. At last, only a few people in all of Israel remembered that it was God who had rescued them from their enemies. Every harvest season, just when the Israelites were ready to gather the harvest in, roving bands of Midianites stole their harvest. For years, the desert tradesmen terrorised the Israelite villages and raided their fields. "Run for your lives! If they find where I hid my grain, we'll starve." But when the raid is over, it's gone. It's all gone. They went to their caves to find their grain and it had disappeared. It had been stolen. For 7 long years, the Israelites suffer at the hands of the desert tribesmen. They hide in caves and thresh their grain in secret places. But the raiders always return and steal it. Then, even more frightening news comes. The Midianites are coming again, and they're bringing great armies from the east. Like grasshoppers, the enemy swarms over the Israelite fields, stealing their grain, their cattle, and their sheep. One day, a young Israelite is secretly threshing his grain when a stranger appears before him. "Who are you? What do you want?" "You are a mighty warrior, Gideon. God has chosen you to save his people." "Me? My family is the weakest of the whole tribe, and I'm the weakest in my family. If you're really an angel of the Lord, then give me a sign." Gideon prepared some food and brought it to the stranger. "Put the food on the rock." The stranger touches the food with his staff. Instantly, fire bursts forth and consumes it. "I've seen the angel of the Lord face to face." When the angel disappears, God speaks to Gideon and tells him to destroy the altar of Baal. Gideon is afraid of the townspeople, so he waits until dark to obey. "Won't the people kill us if they find out?" "That's why we're doing it at night." But there he is, him and his mates smashed up the altar to Baal. But Gideon still hopes that God hasn't really called him to, so he asks for a sign. "Okay, God, tomorrow morning, if this wool is wet with dew and the ground is dry, then I know that it's you who've truly chosen me." The next morning, Gideon has a sign. The ground is dry, but there's enough dew on the wool to fill a whole bowl. So not just a little bit of dew, it was soaking wet. Clearly a sign from God. But Gideon is still afraid. "Oh God, please don't be angry. Give me just one more sign. This time, make the wool dry and the ground wet, and I'll really, really, really trust you." The next morning, the wool is dry and the ground is wet. "All right, God, I believe. Now I know that I'm the one called out to save my people." Gideon calls the leaders of Israel together. "With God's help, we can drive the Midianites from our land. Are you with me?" Yeah, they said. With an army of 32,000 soldiers, Gideon marches to the hills surrounding the Midianite camp. What a camp! Their camels outnumber the sand on the shore. "Don't worry, with 32,000 men, we've got a good chance of beating against them." But God gives Gideon more instructions. God has said that if any of you is afraid to fight, you may leave now and go home. Most of the army left. About 10,000 men remained. But God wants it to be clear that victory comes from God. But God wants it to be clear that victory comes from him, not from the strength of the army. And he makes Gideon weed out his army once again. When the men stop to drink from a brook, anyone who kneels down to drink is sent home. How can I win a battle with so few soldiers, Gideon thought. Only 300 men are left out of his original army of 32,000. Now the Israelites know beyond all doubt that only with God's help can they defeat the army. Hide your torches in these pictures, spread out on 3 sides of the camp and wait until nightfall. Then listen for my signal on the trumpet. We're ready, but I think they're probably quite scared. At Gideon's signal, the men blow their trumpets, smash their pitchers, wave their torches and give the battle cry, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon." The The stillness of the night is suddenly broken by the blare of 300 trumpets and the crash of broken pitchers. Startled from their sleep, the Midianites rush out to find their camp ablaze with flaming torches. Though there are only 300, the Israelite torches, horns, and shouting throw the Midianites into a panic. They lash out with their swords, hitting each other down. Within minutes, they've killed more of their own men than Gideon could ever with his original army. The Lord has demonstrated his might once again. So it all works out when God's in control. I think that's what we've been learning all year, isn't it, as we've gone through this Bible? That God's in control, but we need to listen to him. So we'll see what happens next week. Have a good week. Hopefully I'll have a better night's sleep. I'm sorry for all my yawning. And I will see you next week. Or on the Zoom tonight, Tuesday night. I'll see some of you there. So see you later. See you next week. Bye.